morning, everyone. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Public Works for today, Wednesday, January 15th, 2020.
Commissioner James, Davis, and Caloza are present. President James, you do have a quorum. May we start with Bureau introductions, please, starting with Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Sephi Wiles, Bureau of Contract Administration.
Good morning, Brian McCormick, Los Angeles Sanitation and Environment.
Good morning, Eddie Chavez, Bureau of Street Lighting.
Good morning, Patrick Schmidt, Bureau of Engineering.
Good morning, Tim Tyson, Bureau of Street Services, Streets LA.
Good morning, Ted Jordan, Public Works General Counsel.
Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. President James, we did receive one speaker card under general public comment. We have no commentary under the Neighborhood Council comment section. We also received speaker cards on items 1, 2, and 3 for today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Then let's go ahead and take agenda items 4 through 9 are assessment hearings in Council Districts 1, 13, 14, and 2 for street lighting. Mr. Chavez, are you here on those items?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Eddie Chavez, Bureau of Street Lighting. I am here for items 4 through 9 that pertain to the lighting districts which are created in conjunction with private development projects. Ballots for items 4 through 9 were mailed on November 21st, 2019. These ballots must be received by the City Clerk's office by next Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. We have not received any objections to date on items 4 through 9. We are requesting for the board to adopt and forward items 4 through 9 forthwith to City Council.
Thank you. Any questions on 4 through 9? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda items 4 through 9 forthwith. Seconded by Commissioner Caloza. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda items 4 through 9 forthwith. Agenda item number 13 is a bond to release a stop payment notice from Ellicnor Belco Electric Incorporated. That company and Fidelity and Deposit Company of Maryland is transmitting a bond to release money withheld on stop payment notice filed by Walters Wholesale Electric number 22. The bond amounts $205,265.84 for furnishing electric supplies in connection with the Riverside Drive near Zoo Drive Bridge over Los Angeles River project. The primary contractor is Ortiz Enterprises Incorporated. Is there a second to my motion that we receive agenda item number 13 forthwith? By Commissioner Caloza. Any objection? Without objection, we'll receive agenda item number 13 forthwith. Agenda item number 12 is a requested contract acceptance, 17434 Castellamar Drive, Bulkhead and Castellamar Drive Sewer, recommending that the board accept the contract. We have a representative for number 12 today?
Yes,
Ms. Wiles.
Yes, good morning. Again, Sephi Wiles, Bureau of Contract Administration, requesting the board accept this contract. On May 30, 2018, an emergency geotechnical structural construction services contract was awarded on a competitive basis in the amount of $851,471 even, with a not-to-exceed amount limit of $1,021,765.20 to the company formerly known as John S. Meek Company, now JILC. The contract was executed with a notice to proceed, issued on June 6, 2018, and all work was completed on February 7, 2019. This project scope included improving lateral support to Castellamar Drive by installing approximately 86 lineal feet of bulkhead. The construction work also included the installation of approximately 136 lineal feet of 8-inch diameter sewer pipe and also street repair. There was one change order decreasing the contract amount by $132,720.01, which represents 15.59% of the original contract, and the amount was 29.66% below the not-to-exceed amount, bringing the total cost of the contract to $718,750.99. The funds were provided from two funding sources: Measure M, Return Fund number 59C, Department number 94, Appropriation Unit number 94PV14, and also from the Sewer Capital Fund, Fund number 761, Department Appropriation Unit number 50PAF7. A request to release retention funds was processed on March 11th via progress payment number 2, and there are no funds disputed or withheld, therefore no funds are due the contractor. There are no unresolved property owners' complaints or anything in connection to this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiles. Any questions on number 12? I don't have have any questions either, I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 12, seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt number 12. Any issues sending 12 forthwith? We'll send number 12 forthwith. There's been a request, the request came from me actually, to continue the 6th Street Viaduct update, the oral report. That will be continued to Friday, January 24th, 2020. Any objection on that? So without objection, we'll continue agenda item number 14 to Friday, January 24th, 2020. Agenda item number 1 is we have one bid that we're going to receive today, Dr. Campos, correct?
We do, Mr. President. My request is not to open up the bids right now. If you can continue the agenda for
Until
the
after
regular agenda
10:15?
until 10:15, there
Yeah.
is a special item requesting that the bids be continued. So therefore, if you can hold that item until 10:15 until the board considers the special agenda.
Fair enough. So let's go to number 10. Streets LA, a license agreement, iSolutions Incorporated, MyLA 311 smartphone app project, requesting board approval and agreement between iSolutions Incorporated, recommending the board find that the project meets the standard requirements of an agreement between Street Services at Streets LA and iSolutions Incorporated. Secondly, approve the agreement between Streets LA and iSolutions Incorporated to proceed with creating and implementing the data application. And third, approve Streets LA to remit payment to iSolutions in the amount of $25,000 for the consulting services, training, and demonstration of iSolutions CRM integration project. Mr. Spots on number 10.
Good morning, Greg Spots, Assistant Director and Chief Sustainability Officer of Streets LA. And I'm pleased to tell you that although this is a small financial item, sort of represents a giant step forward in our technology usage and innovation at Streets LA. 5 years ago, the city purchased a large-scale enterprise system for MyLA 311 from Oracle PeopleSoft, and we call that the CRM, the Customer Relationship Management System. And the 5 bureaus were the launch customers of that system, which replaced individual databases that each bureau had internally. And we're very proud at Streets LA that we were a leader in using tablets in the field to communicate with MyLA 311 for our staff, instead of printing things out from MyLA 311, bringing paper out in the field, taking notes out in the field, coming back into the office, typing things into the database. In the old days, just for a pothole to get filled, the service requests got printed 2 times. One time for the inspection, and then keyed back in, and then one time for the pothole being completed and keyed back in. And now we have this paperless digital process. We won an award for that with some other agencies back in 2016. However, the system, the MyLA 311 system that the city bought, the city only bought the interface for the call center operator. It's a PC-based interface where you have, just to look at one service request, it's actually 3 full screens of data you have to scroll around. So there's 50 different text boxes. It's not very easy to use such an interface on a tablet, especially when you're in a low coverage area and you're trying to upload and download information. So we started a discussion with Apple in early 2019, and in February we went on a trip to the Apple headquarters and got like a enterprise level presentation from them about ways we could use their hardware and software capabilities to improve the user experience of our staff using mobile devices in the field. And we developed a project with them so that about the 125 people that work under me in forestry, maintenance, and investigation enforcement, this is the whole group of people who inspect service requests that come in through MyLA 311, that all of them could have a streamlined touch interface on an iPhone to do this work, where you're only presented with the information you need at this moment to make a decision. And we found out that Apple has a company within it called FileMaker, which has what's called a low-code platform, meaning standardized kind of components that piece together, so you don't need to program a software application from scratch. It's a very cost-effective way to do stuff, and they have the standard package for about $25,000 where they build you the first version of the app in FileMaker. So Apple put us together with this developer iSolutions that supports them in doing these introductory projects. And we have a project underway that is so exciting where in the morning when you turn on your phone, the service requests that pertain to you that came in yesterday are in a list ready to go. Instead of querying for them, that happened in the background. We've automated, we're in the process of automating this work. So you look at your service request, you pick the one you want to start with, you go into Apple Maps, you get a routing on how to get there. When you're finished with that one, and you just have a few touches in order to interact with it, and let's say you wanted to take a picture. You hit picture, boom, you take the picture gets uploaded. You have online and offline capabilities, so if you are in a bad coverage area, you can interact with a service request, and the next time you're in good coverage in the background, the phone will upload the data back to MyLA 311. And then when you're finished with that one, you can ask it to sort them for where the nearest next one is and give you the routing to get there. It's really going to revolutionize the field experience for our staff and enable them to cover much more ground much quicker, which means potholes get filled faster, tree emergencies get dealt with faster, leaning and diseased trees get inspected quicker, and all the different violations that our street services investigators inspect will be inspected faster. So it's a very exciting project, and we're just looking for your approval for the financial part of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Spots. I feel like I need to be in a hurry to make my motion. It sounds amazing. I know it's something that Streets LA has been working towards for a long time. I say it almost every day, technology changes the way we're delivering city services. And your team and your bureau is one of the prime examples of that. And I appreciate the leadership role that you all take in this very important area. So we'll start with Commissioner Caloza.
Thank you, President James. Thanks, Greg, for the presentation. I think you answered some of the questions I was going to ask you. I have a few follow-up questions, more as it relates to process, not necessarily about the objectives of what you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, I agree with what President James said, and couldn't agree more that, Streets LA is taking huge leaps in terms of really trying to modernize how we deliver services, and really commend you guys for taking another step forward in that direction and trying to make the experience as easy internally for the people delivering the service, as we also look to make the customer experience as easy. My question was about the process in terms of whether or not this needed to go through an RFP process for selection, and I just wasn't sure if you could explain a little bit about that and why we're just selecting them versus going through our typical process.
Sure. The typical processes are somewhat challenging when it pertains to custom app development. The city doesn't have a bench of app contractors that you can assign a task to, like the way we do for so many other professional services like engineering and that kind of thing. And originally, we got a price quote from one developer, an estimate of $170,000 to do this work. And then we asked Apple to resharpen their pencils, and that's when they came up with this idea of using FileMaker, the low-code platform, because they had a standardized introductory product through FileMaker that's priced at a level that's within the discretionary authority of our general manager. So if we had gone out to bid to a traditional software developer, this would have been a six-figure project.
Okay, that's really helpful, because I know typically when we see amounts, and this is again within the authority of Streets LA, it comes to us as an AFE, right? And this is coming to us as a board report, which I also really appreciate, by the way, because it does add additional background information there, and it includes the attachments that are really helpful to read, so I do appreciate that, but I thought it was really helpful to note that for the record. In terms of the timeline, can you explain a little bit more about when you're expecting results by? I know this is just the initial phase, right? It's not actually for the full product just yet.
So we have 5 iPhones on order, and our goal is to have 5 inspectors utilizing a beta version of the app within the next 60 days. And once we have evaluated it, we'll tweak it, and then we can get many more users going. Something I neglected to mention, which is really important, is if we can streamline the interface so it works on a phone instead of a big tablet, we can save money by only issuing phones to the staff who currently have a city phone and a city tablet. So basically, we're trying to create an alternative and improved pathway to interact with MyLA 311 so that over time we could migrate our staff from having 2 Android devices to 1 Apple device. That will save us money on the devices and on maintaining, because you have to manage and maintain the devices. And also we have some staff who would like not to have to carry the tablet. We have staff who are measuring a tree or putting a probe into a tree or taking cones or barricades off the street. And many of them find that if they could have a belt clip sized device, it could help them out in the field rather than sort of, where do I put the tablet when I pick up this cone, that kind of thing.
Thank you for that. And then, since 311 is managed by our ITA department, can you explain a little bit about how this new technology, this new app that we're developing is going to connect with that system so that there's no glitches there? I know we're essentially trying to attach a new system, a new app to our existing one. Is that correct?
Sure. So we're trying to attach a mobile app as a client to a large server-based enterprise software system. And the way that's usually done is through what's called an API. And large server-based software systems today in the cloud in the modern era have standardized ports so that you can get in and out through other means so that other pieces of software can communicate with that master database. And so we're working closely with ITA to engage those APIs to get our app to communicate with that. And different departments have done lots of different integration projects with MyLA 311 and their own departmental software products.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I don't have any other questions right now. I am curious to see, when you guys come back to board next time, just the progress of it. I'm sure other bureaus within Public Works would also benefit from learning about your work on this and how it can apply to all the other services that we deliver. And so I commend you guys for your work on this. And I do think that, I know this is already done and you guys have written the board report, but I do think it was really helpful to understand that you investing funds in developing this app actually would save us money as a city, and that might be something helpful to write in your written board report in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Commissioner Davis?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that it's great that we are continuing to observe and select the most recent state-of-the-art technology to improve services among our staff, and in return, obviously, we will increase the service delivery to the public as well. So I'm very glad to hear you keep up with that, and I'm sure the mayor, who has an appreciation for state-of-the-art technology, can appreciate this proposal as well. We were able to get this introductory development from, I guess, Apple for $25,000, correct?
Yes, that's their FileMaker subsidiary offers that as an introduction for large enterprises to try the FileMaker platform.
I see, and then the subsequent payments that we will make will depend upon our usage, I guess, of the staff and whatever.
It wouldn't be subscription-based. We don't need to pay a per-user license or anything like that, but we may further develop the app in the future if we find that there are more functions we'd like to mobilize and automate out there. We're hoping to learn and get better at this stuff.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Thank you, Mr. Spots. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 10. Seconded, Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 10. Any issue sending it forthwith? We'll send number 10 forthwith. Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Dr. Campos, can we do number 1?
sorry, Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. We can open up the special, so if you'd like, we can recess the regular agenda, open
So
up the special so that we can consider the continuation of the bids.
I'm a little confused by,
Yeah, this is a little unusual. So there was a request, a last-minute request from the Bureau of Engineering to continue the bid openings for today's agenda. Rather than open up the bids, we would like to request that this board consider a bid continuation
for both of them.
through the special. So basically, if the board were to consider,
I got you. Yeah.
Okay.
So here was my confusion. I thought we had two of them when I looked. We have two projects? Yeah, we have two.
we do.
Hyperion and DCT. My initial reading of the motion was that we were going to continue on one of them, not both of them. I recognize what you want to do now. So let's adjourn the regular meeting.
Great. So we will adjourn the regular meeting. We will open up the special. Roll call for the special meeting. We have Commissioner James, Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Caloza. President James, you do have a quorum for the special meeting. We did receive one speaker card on general public comment. We also received one speaker card on the item before you.
Mr. Sachs, general public comment on the special. Everybody's waiting for you, Mr. Sachs. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Arnold Sachs. It's nice to be here. Great meeting yesterday at the Board of Supervisors. I actually think, they have planned the Olympics for 2028. I think the game's already started. It's fascinating. But anyway, that was a great presentation. Got to come in earlier and look at these agendas sooner. The city moving to upgrade its delivery systems and all these data control systems. Data. You're going to have a meeting like that. It's going to be, well, this data said that data, and that data said this data. I see here, anyway, by the way, you know who owns Apple, don't you? You ought to check into that. They're making money. They are making money. Apple is owned by Alphabet Incorporated. Alphabet Incorporated bought Apple, and so it's one of these chain reaction type things, and Alphabet Incorporated is getting so much power. It's going to be the largest company in America pretty soon, and they'll control everything. What you do, what you eat, what you say, but the idea that collecting data is one thing. Getting the work actually done, that's a totally different project. So if you collect the data, but you don't get the work done, nothing ever gets done. More data, less work. More data, less work. There's got to be a fine line between data collection and feet on the ground. Because feet on the ground get the work done. Data collecting gets the data collected. And you call up, oh, we have a project on the list, we're waiting for the data so we can send out somebody to look at the data that we have collected, and then we can take that data and put it on the calendar so that when that data shows up, we'll send somebody out. By that time, it'll be 10 years. And you know what happens in 10 years? You go through 2 election cycles. And in 2 election cycles, nothing ever happens.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. That'll close general public comment on the special. Agenda item number 1 on the special, Mr. Sachs.
Let the games continue.
Obviously.
So agenda item number 1 refers to the bids for the Hyperion Perimeter Water Reclamation Plan. But on one of your items here, you have a list for on-call, emergency pre-qualified on-call geotechnical structure engineers, contractors, whatever. Don't you have lists for on-call for these workers, for these projects? I mean, essentially with all the data that's collected, you should have an idea of what's going on with these projects because you've already collected the data. We just heard about collecting data is the new frontier for the city of Los Angeles. And we're going to jump to the front of the line, and we're going to collect so much data, your eyes will bulge. But so why are there only 2 bids for this plant? There's got to be small business contractors. There's got to be contract. It's like closed bidding for major public work projects. You have lists for this on-call contractors. You have lists for consultants. Again, was there consultants called in so you know what's going on with this project? I don't know. Nobody's here to talk about, well, maybe they'll say we have a consultant. Maybe we have two consultants. We have to collect the data from the consultants before we get the bids. And then when we get the bids, we have to go over the data for the bids so that we can finalize the bid to get the work done. And you know what happens then? 6 years have passed and nothing's been done. And the cost of the project has gone from $10 million to $15 million because the cost of living goes up. It doesn't go down. So take your data and take your cost of living stuff and roll them together in a big taco wrapper, by the way.
2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Dr. Campos, I just had a conversation with our city attorney. We are still taking a bid this morning, right?
That is correct. You have, item number 1 has 2 bids. The first is for the Hyperion Water
Because
Reclamation.
you left me with the understanding a moment ago that we were going to continue these bids, but we're taking one out of the two.
We're taking one out of the 2.
All right, thank you. On agenda, the special meeting, we're still on. Mr. Ohanian? So if I read the motion, second paragraph, the project is scheduled to receive bids on January 15, 2020. A critical addendum adding the project labor agreement was issued on January 13, 2020, and we anticipate that the potential bidders will require additional time to incorporate the addendum, which references the project labor agreement, obviously, to their bid. The extension would not significantly impact the project schedule and would allow the contractors more time to submit the competitive bids. And Mr. Ohanian, this is on the bid related to the Hyperion Water Reclamation Plant. That's the one that you want us to continue from today for 2 weeks until January 29th. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else you'd like to add on that?
No, that's all.
Okay. Any questions, colleagues, on that? No? Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 1 on the special. So we're putting off the Hyperion bid for 2 weeks for the project labor agreement consideration on the bidders. Is there a second on that? Commissioner Davis and Commissioner Caloza. That'll be the order. Thank you, sir. Any issue sending special 1 forthwith? We'll send special 1 forthwith. That will close. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk on special 1?
Yes, you have on special 1.
Okay, so that special meeting will be adjourned. Let's go back to the regular meeting. Dr. Campos, whatever.
Just for the roll call, Commissioner James, Davis, and Caloza are present. You do have a quorum, and we can continue the regular agenda.
All right. So let's go ahead and take care of agenda item number 1, which is there were bids for 2 items. There's now a bid. We just continued the Hyperion item for 2 weeks. There is still a bid for the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant Japanese Garden American Disability Act Compliance Project. Estimate $997,000, Council District 6. Mr. Sachs, you have a card in on regular agenda item number 1.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. So you have to make the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Japanese Garden compliant with the Disability Act, ADA compliant. How big a project is this project? Have you had a consultant go out to the Rose Garden at the USC? You know, they have a ramp that is as long as this alleyway right here between these rows of benches. A metal ramp that goes from the top of the stairs down to the bottom where there's a fountain in the middle. And so that ramp goes from the top of the stairs when you get off whatever street is there and you walk down the walkway and down, walks right down there, maybe cost $5,000, maybe $10,000 if you put handrails on it. Well, you have to have handrails on it. $10,000 for that, and you're going to spend almost $1 million for a disability-compliant ramp. So you can save $987,000, and you can use it for data. Next-gen stats, and say, why didn't we think of this earlier? And what are we paying a consultant for when you could take a Google picture of that ramp? You don't even have to leave your office. You can Google it, which is really dangerous sometimes when you think about it. And you can Google it and have it show up on your map and say, look at that ramp, son of a bitch. $10,000 and we got it covered. Make your mind up, Mr. Mayor and the City Council.
2 minutes.
Thank you to Mr. Sachs. On agenda item number 1, Dr. Campos for the DCT project.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fernando Campos, Executive Officer. We will continue now to open up the Donald C. Tillman Water Reclamation Plant Japanese Garden American Disability Act Compliance Project, estimated at $997,000 even. This is in Council District 6. We did receive 2 bids for this project. The first bid is from Green Building Corporation for a total bid amount of $1,237,000 even. That's 1237000 from Green Building Corporation. The second and final bid received for the second project on the regular agenda is from Axiom Group for a total bid amount of $953,605 even. That's 953605 from Axiom Group. Mr. President, that concludes the bid openings for the second project. As you know, project number 1 on the agenda has been continued.
Great, thank you. Is there a second to my motion that for an order that the bids have been received, opened, and declared? Thank you both. Thank you, by Commissioners Caloza and Davis. So that'll be the order on agenda item number 1, and that'll be forthwith as well. So thank you, everybody, on number 1. Agenda item number 11, construction orders. Keywood Infrastructure West Company, urgent necessity projects, emergency pre-qualified on-call geotechnical structural contractors list, recommending that the board first declare an urgent necessity. 1 second, Mr. Bozzi, we've got a card in on that. Declare an urgent necessity for the repair of various citywide concrete streets and authorize a construction budget not to exceed $5 million to perform the work. Secondly, authorize Streets LA to retain Keywood Infrastructure West Company as the contractor, who is currently at the top position on the emergency pre-qualified on-call geotechnical structural contractors list in lieu of soliciting bids from 3 or more contractors from the pre-qualified on-call list as required by Bureau of Engineering Board Report number 1, dated March 20th, 2015, for urgent necessity projects that are greater than $500,000. The only thing I would say, Dr. Campos, going forward on these agenda items, rather than using that greater than sign, it's always better to spell it out in case it confuses some people. And third, authorize Streets LA to issue construction orders, which will be subject to contract administration inspection, tracking work for time and material, and processing payments to the contractor. We also have Mr. Haj Khalil here. I know that he's had communications with the Bureau of Engineering on their agreement with this going forward that we can hear about if necessary. Mr. Sachs, go ahead, sir. On number 11.
Yep, the Olympic Games. We're in the pentathlon. So let's see. There's a requirement that you do bidding, but you have a emergency repair citywide concrete streets for $5 million. But you had this emergency repair list from 2015. Do you know that way back when Councilman Buscaino and there was another councilman, actually he lost his seat because he did something crooked. They put together a report. This is like when the city was considering a half-cent sales tax to save the budget. This is like 5 years ago, maybe. And they put together a report that said that the city, back in the mid-90s, had gone through and mapped all the streets in LA. And they did a report on the grading of the streets in the 90s. And what was interesting about that is that when Obama put together the ARA funding, America Fast Forward, the Department of Transportation didn't have any projects that were shovel ready. And you know what you can do with a shovel. And so now we have 10 years later, emergency repairs without, and I'm sorry if this contractor is at the top of the list, but this whole bidding process, I mean, you would have had data on this, I'm sure, that there would have been data showing that these concrete streets, and by the way, what is a concrete streets wearing away from road usage, maybe global warming, maybe even acid rain. That was a big topic in California once. Acid rain could be degrading the concrete streets That's what happens when acid rain falls. But now we have global warming. Who gives a shit about acid rain? You ought to pay attention. When you go to the supermarket, you'll find all these bottles of pH water balanced. It's because of acid rain. That's what they use it for. When they flush the sewers and they clean up from the homeless people, they're flushing the sewers
2 minutes.
because of
Thank you,
acid
Mr. Sachs.
rain.
Mr. Bazzi on number 11. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Al Bazi from Streets LA. So the city has 774 lane miles of concrete streets with a PCI index of less than 40. PCI stands for Pavement Condition Index. It's a numerical index that's assigned from 0 to 100 that reflects the condition of the street. Anything under 40, we call it a failed condition that requires extensive repair. With that in mind, Streets LA was budgeted for 1920, amount of $7 million for this program to repair 400,000 square feet of concrete streets. So the goal of this program is to improve safety of the street infrastructure and thus reduce the liabilities that the city can face as a result of these failures. So Streets LA crews have already started on this program and with in-house crews, and we quickly realized that we are not going to be able to complete the goals of this program while keeping all of the other requirements and the goals that we do here in the Bureau. So we started looking at other vehicles. Streets LA does not have an on-call contractors list. CAO instructed us to seek other vehicles approved in the city. The most relevant one that we found was BOE's on-call geotechnical structural contractors list. So that's what we're here for today. So after looking at that contract, it was evident to us that we're going to need a one-time exception, because what we're seeking is to utilize the top contractor on that list. The guidelines that were approved back in March of 2015, they require us for declaring urgent necessity over 500,000 to bid the whole list, to invite the whole list. In this case, we don't have any plans to bid out to the contractors. We're just replacing concrete with like for like. So that is the reason we're asking for this exception. We would like the contractor to do it on T&M basis. We will issue construction orders to the contractor. The contract will be administered by Bureau of Contract Administration, who will process the payments, who will track the progress, just like we do in any other contract in the city. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Question for Mr. Haj Khalil. Thank you, Mr. Bazzi. Very helpful. Recognizing the partnership with engineering on this, would you explain a little bit about that, and then recognizing that just a few years ago we didn't really have a budget at all for concrete streets. It's something that's been very important for a number of council districts around the city. After the passage of Measure M, we were able to, and by the way, it was something that we talked about during the Measure M campaign, the availability of funding to do some of this work with concrete streets in the city of Los Angeles. So just a couple minutes on the partnership with BOE and the importance of doing something on concrete streets.
So I'll start with the reversal. Adel Hashkali, General Manager of Streets LA, thank you. The key thing is, as you know, it's making the city streets safe is a high priority for us, the mayor, the council, and the Board of Public Works. And we are since I became general manager, one of the things that I wanted to do is use information and data to help us drill into and reduce our risk and liability and the payouts that we're paying, but also that we're seeing a lot of injuries as a result of our streets that are causing problems. So we really honed in and we looked at these failed streets, especially concrete streets, that we haven't had the program in place because of the concerned about the cost and the resources to get it done. But it's one of the major areas of concern. As you know, by 5th and Irving recently, we had a sinkhole as a result of these failures, and it's something that we had to take care of. The program that we proposed in the budget and in the mayor's budget and approved by council is to provide contract money for the first time to address these high priority concrete failed streets. And although we don't have resources that was allocated for it, the intent was to use a contract vehicle without design and to maximize return on the investment. We use our resources to get this going. It's already in place. We're working on it, but we don't have additional resources to use. We have it already programmed for other work across the program. And what we're using this contract is in a way, staff augmentation without design to reduce the cost. So in that effort, this is needed, essential to make the city safe. I've worked with my partner, city engineer and the Bureau of Engineering on using their on-call list, and we have been in communication on this specific issue, and they understand the need for this and the support on this. It has been used for sidewalk repair before, and what we agreed to do is to have this be a one-time exception as we look for other options in the future to provide us the tools to do this in the future. So we'll be working after this with the CEO and others on maybe creating our own on-call, but in the meantime, we need this. It's essential for us to move forward, and the Bureau of Engineering actually supports us moving forward at this point.
Okay. Commissioner Closa.
Thank you, President James. Thanks to Dell and to Al. Al came and briefed me yesterday, so he shared a few things in the briefing that I thought might be really helpful just to add for the record for the specific project, especially since it has a few exceptions in the board's action today that we typically haven't done in the past. Can you just explain the breakdown in terms of the $7 million total budgeted for failed streets for this specific project, and where the other $2 million was allocated to, since what's described here is 5 of the $2 million?
Sure, Commissioner, thank you. As I mentioned, we've already started the work. Up till date, we've completed approximately $1.5 million in-house. So this $5 million, we just put it as a not-to-exceed amount that we can expect the contractor to do, but we're expecting to do more than that. So the total budgeted amount is $7 million. We're asking board authorization for $5 million to the contractor, with the remaining $2 million to be done in-house. But these numbers can change. It's simply a not-to-exceed amount that we're asking for, and the actual numbers will vary at the end.
Okay. That's really helpful. So what % complete are you right now in terms of your goal for fixing these failed streets, just for, I think, our awareness?
Sure. We've spent about 28% of the program so far, and that's per the square footage as well as the money. We spent about, as of December 31st, $1.4 million, but we've been working. So my guess right now is about 1.6, 1.7 million where we're at out of the 7 million that we're budgeted, and we've built about 114,000 square feet out of the 400,000 square feet.
Okay. And how confident are we that we're going to meet this June deadline using these augmented services? I ask that because I know you guys always deliver, and again, it's as President James mentioned, this is not a program that was previously funded in the past, and we really want to make sure to meet these goals. So I understand why we're, at board today requesting to use this on-call list, because we want to make sure that this program and these failed streets get fixed for, as Adele mentioned, for public safety reasons primarily.
Absolutely. We're committing as many crews as we can right now. That is a top priority for the Bureau. We've met with the contractor yesterday. They're starting with 3 crews. They can procure up to 6 crews or 7 crews if needed. So that is the goal. It's not a lot of time left. We do realize that, and we are going to commit as many crews as we can from in-house staff as well as the contractor to meet this goal.
Okay. So that's a yes, we'll meet the goal?
I took that as a yes, Commissioner Colosa.
The answer is yes, and our commitment to get it done. We have done it. And one thing I want to put in context, 18 locations of failed streets, we have paid in one incident only on these 18 locations, $35 million in lawsuit settlements. Yeah. So to me, put it in context, 18 locations only, we are actually paid $35 million. And imagine the return on the investment. So I want to put that as a kind of a point to clarify really how we move in the right direction.
Yes, and Commissioner Close, an excellent question. And by the way, that brings me to just another point that's important. This is a very smart investment, and our city attorney's office would agree with that. Anything further?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm, looking forward to seeing your Friday weekly report filled with all the notices for street improvements. So I anticipate you'll have many more pages to add to that. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 11, seconded by Commissioner Colosa. Thank you. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 11. Thank you, guys. And go forth and do great work with them. Thank you all. And thank you to the Bureau of Engineering for their assistance and partnership with this as well. Is there a second to my motion? Did we send number 11 forthwith?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to my motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of Wednesday, January 8th, 2020 by Commissioner Davis? Any objection? Without objection, we will do so. Agenda item number, let's go ahead and take, now we need to get our voting items done. Agenda item number, actually I'm not going to do that. General public comment, Dr. Sachs. General public comment. I know, I've got 2 and 3. I'm going to get to them, but I want to get through public comment. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry about that. Some things are global. There's a solution to some of these things. But that concrete thing, there was a picture, and I believe this refers to the city's street vending ordinance. So there was a picture in the LA Times a couple of days ago about this guy standing on the sidewalk selling selling pizza. But the city's got a street vending ordinance. So the idea that you could sell on the sidewalks, but the ordinance refers to selling in the streets. You understand the difference between the two. Let me give you a better idea. This is an article, Medi-Cal for all, the governor's budget. And this woman goes on to talk about Medi-Cal, and she states that there's Medicaid and there's Medicare. And the city and the state also has HealthNet, which is a program that takes in the federal funds from Obamacare, which is part of the state's Medi-Cal. So you have Medi-Cal, Medicaid, and Medicare. It's very confusing. And one takes from the other, and one doesn't do anything at all. She cites a report from Medicare Payment Advisory Commission, but she's talking about Medi-Cal. So Medicare Advisory Commission doesn't advise about Medi-Cal. It's the same kind of thing. When you have concrete streets, you have concrete sidewalks, you have people selling goods on the sidewalks, but the ordinance refers to selling goods in the street. So does that mean the trucks that roll around? It could. And you say, oh, well, that'll affect low-income people.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. That will close general public comment. Mr. Sachs, don't go far away, please. Agenda item number 2, assessment hearing number 1, Council District 14, Grand Avenue and First Street, Street Lighting Maintenance Assessment District. Council hearing set for January 21, 2020. You put in a card on number 2, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to thank all the people from the Grand Avenue project that are here for this assessment hearing. Doesn't look like anybody. But again, who will pay for this Grand Avenue project assessment hearing, and the condominiums that are being built at Grand Avenue and First, the high rises that are going to go up. How can you have an assessment when you don't have anything built? It's kind of tough. And you don't have anybody living in the buildings, but you're going to make an assessment. It's going to be kind of tough. So if you have nobody living there, and you have nobody in the building, but you're going to bill who? The public is going to pay for the Grand Avenue assessment on top of everything else? Maybe they could get the related company, related cause, to get involved in this Grand Ave. They've gotten so much money in free stuff from the city. You need next-gen stats to figure out just how much they're getting. It's really kind of ridiculous.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. On number 2, Mr. Chavez. Don't go too far, Mr. Sachs. You got a card in on number 3 as well. Number 2, Mr. Chavez.
Eddie Chavez, Bureau of Street Lighting. Item 2 pertains to the lighting district which we are creating in conjunction with private development projects. Ballots for item 2 were mailed on November 21st, 2019. Ballot for item 2 must be received by the city clerk's office by next Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. We are requesting for the board to deny the protest and requesting the board to adopt and forthwith items to city council.
The base of the protest was what?
Or just deny his comment, I guess, or any issues related to these issues or projects, if there's any.
Okay, any questions on number 2? I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 2. Is there a second? By Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 2. Agenda item number 3 is an assessment hearing number 2 in Council District 6, setting for council hearing on the same day, January 21, 2020, Sepulveda Boulevard and LeMay Street, Street Lighting Maintenance Assessment District. Mr. Sachs on number 3.
Yes, thank you again, Arnold Sachs. And so on January 21st, there's going to be like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 assessment hearings. Public hearings, actually. Public hearings. Yet the city council has rules that state you can only talk on items on the agenda for 2 minutes. And so if you wanted to talk about 3 of these public hearings and how screwy they are, you couldn't. You could not talk on those items because the city council has hearing rules. Well, they're not hearing rules, so you have to wonder, is it the city council rules? Is it the city, what is it? The rules that govern the city, that override the city council rules, should be made, because if the city council overrides city rules in general, people should vote on those rules, not the city council. People should vote on rules that override the ability to question city government. Because if you can't question city government, then nothing ever gets done. You have to read the agendas, and you have to have the opportunity to question. That's what they say at the end. If you want to file a report or complaint, you only have what you can talk on. But if you can only talk on 2 items, then you can't file a complaint if they have 57 items on the agenda. There's something wrong when you can do that and get away with it. That's not really good government at all. That's everybody's responsibility.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Mr. Chavez on number 3.
Eddie Chavez, Bureau of Street Lighting. Item 3 pertains to the lighting district which we are creating in conjunction with a private development project. Ballots for item 3 were mailed on November 21st, 2019. Ballot for item 3 must be received by the city clerk's office by next Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. We are requesting for the board to adopt and forward item 3 forthwith to city council.
Questions on number 3? No objections on number 3. I'll make a motion that we adopt agenda item number 3. Seconded by Commissioner Davis. Any objection? Without objection, we'll adopt agenda item number 3. Thank you, Mr. Chavez. Any issue sending number 3 forthwith? We will send number 3 forthwith. Dr. Campos, have we cleared the desk?
Yes, you have.
We are adjourned, everyone. Have a nice Wednesday. See you Friday.